In this topic, we want to talk about dark launching. Now, in my view, dark launching might be the key to successfully adopting an agile, rapid DevOps process with your database code. Now, without this, coordination is very difficult as your team scales or as your application scales. We want to ensure that if we make changes to the database, we want to do so in a non-intrusive manner, and we want to work on our cadence or our schedule, not be too tied tightly to other applications or other development teams. The idea with the dark launch is that as we change the system, our users or our application aren't aware, and nor are they interrupted. In application code, we usually implement feature flags or feature toggles that turn on and off functionality and allow the application to continue to work as it did prior to the release of the features, or we can turn them on for certain users. DevOps is a perfect vehicle for dark launching because we have this rapid release cycle, and we don't want to cause users confusion or concern, but we want to continue to build, deploy new features as they're ready, turning them on when we think it's appropriate. With feature flags, we have the ability to turn on functionality for selected users, our QA staff or beta users or whatever, ensure that changes are deployed but disruption is minimized. Not as easy in the database, but we still can use dark launching. Thing is, we want to use it in a different way. We want to make changes, not for customers, but we want them to be prepared as a base for the application code. Certainly, we have to ensure that our application code is architected so that it's not too brittle, it's not tightly coupled to a specific set of database code, but we want to ensure that over time, we can independently change the database code and dark launch our deployments or our changes without breaking our application. And then when the new application is ready to take advantage of our changes, it can include the new features, and they'll just work with the database changes. Now, the application code is often masked behind its own feature flag turned on for users, but not others. But for the database, we use different techniques, and we'll talk about those. Now, at some point, we have a feature available for all users. We may remove a feature flag, and that's part of code cleanup. But we have to think about that with the database as well. How do we want to handle code cleanup? And we'll discuss that in a later module. Now, one word of caution, the database is a point of stability and consistency for many of our applications, and that typically means that anytime we add functionality, we change storage, we do something else, it's going to apply to all these applications. And so we have to be careful that we don't break anything. For example, if we add a function that does some boundary checking or formatting of data, we want to be careful. If parts of the application uses function, parts don't, we don't want to end up with mismanaged data. We want to make sure our function works for all parts of the application. So that means we have to be careful in how we dark launch these features. Now, we do want to be careful about rolling out changes to database code in pieces. We want to be aware of the logical linkages or the logical issues between parts. And we want to ensure that as we roll out database code, it works correctly with old systems, new systems, and also works correctly with old and new database code as well. So we'll talk about specific features in different modules that will allow you to dark launch your database changes.